I'm here to stay. When all we see is bad blood and mistakes, all we hear is sad songs but heartbreaks. And no matter how long it takes, we're not gonna give up. We can do better. We can do better. And nothing lasts forever. We can do better. I'm not worried 'cause the thing is, we can do better. I know you and I are different. We can do better. I don't wanna overthink it. We can do better. I know you and I are different. We can do better. When all we see is bad blood and mistakes, all we hear is sad songs but heartbreaks. And no matter how long it takes, we're not gonna give up. We can do better. We can do better. And nothing lasts forever. We can do better. We can do better.
Chegares a casa, deitares a cabeça na almofada e dormires de consciência tranquila também é, por exemplo, fazeres alguém feliz, também pode ser. E isto acontece com a RFM e com a Vorten este Natal. Que me dizes de ajudares a Associação Corações com Coroa? Imagina-te a contribuir para bolsas de estudo de raparigas em dificuldades que vão poder continuar a estudar e por tua causa. Só tens de ir ao site da Vorten ou uma loja Vorten e passar um dos códigos da 20 disponíveis. Podes ajudar com 20 cêntimos, 1, 2, 3 euros e nem sequer precisas de comprar nada. Ajudar é preciso e fazer parte do futuro de alguém é espetacular e nós contamos contigo como sempre. Sabemos que nunca nos falhas. Se quiseres saber mais infos, rfm.sap.pt, está tudo no nosso site. Para já os Maroon 5, os próximos a colaborarem com Britney Spears. É verdade, é verdade.
I want that sugar sweet. Don't let nobody touch it unless that somebody's me. I gotta be a man, there ain't no other way. 'Cause girl, you're hotter than a Southern California day. I don't wanna play no games, you don't gotta be afraid. Don't give me all that shy, no makeup on, that's my sugar. Yes, please. Come and put it down on me. I'm right here, 'cause I
RFM tem um excelente regresso a casa a partir de agora com o Wi-Fi. Vem aí Joana Cruz, Rodrigo Gomes e também Daniel Fontoura. O jantar vai ser servido por eles. Eu estou de saída, sou a Catarina Figueiredo. É sempre um gosto imaginar-te desse lado. Amanhã, à mesma hora. Beijinhos, bom resto de segunda.
Começa o teu dia com o pé direito. Acorda com a RFM. Milton, Pedro Fernandes, Mariana Alvim.
Podíamos passar horas a contar a história daquela marca única que constrói automóveis a pensar na segurança das pessoas. Mas hoje preferimos falar do futuro da Volvo. Da Volvo e do nosso inovador e renovado concessionário em Lisboa. Na Ascendo Auto mudamos tudo a pensar em si. Showroom, oficina e usados Volvo Select. Visite-nos até dezembro e habilite-se uma viagem à Suécia. Ascendo Auto Lisboa. A Volvo no seu melhor. Saiba mais em ascendoauto.pt.
As melhores marcas com 0% juros. Paga de 3 a 24 meses com 0% TAEG. Todas as tuas compras de 60 a 5 mil euros. Aproveita os últimos dias. MediaMarkt. Todos queremos tudo. Pague sem juros de 3 vezes de 60 euros a 5 mil euros a 24 vezes de 480 euros a 5 mil euros. Crédito pessoal exemplo para 600 euros pago em 24 mensalidades de 25 euros. TAEG 0%, TAN 0%. Informe-se no 7LM Marca Banco BNP Paribas PFSA. A MediaMarkt atua como intermediário de crédito a título acessório com exclusividade. Válido para todos os artigos das marcas Samsung, Sony, Canon, HP, Roventa, Molinex, Tefal e Whirlpool de 8 a 18 de novembro de 2018.
O Pai Natal está a chegar ao Glicínias Plaza em Aveiro e ao Foz Plaza na Figueira da Foz. Dia 25 de novembro às 15 horas no Glicínias e dia 1 de dezembro às 17 horas no Foz Plaza. Com ele, muita animação e várias surpresas para as crianças não vão faltar. Saiba tudo em glicínias.pt e fozplaza.pt.
Na Ford, acreditamos que uma boa notícia nunca vem só. Por essa mesma razão e porque a Black Friday não é suficiente, criámos os Blue Days da Ford. Durante todo o mês de novembro, poupa o IVA em operações de mecânica. Ouviu bem? Em novembro não terá de pagar o IVA em operações de mecânica. Condições em Ford.pt.
Eles já estão em Portugal. Podes encontrá-los a qualquer momento, na tua casa ou onde quiseres. No Fox Plus.
Sweetness.
The Orville, The Gifted, Snowfall e muito mais. Sempre disponíveis no Fox Plus. Com o Nós Play, a Vodafone e a Novo. Em novembro, sente mais Fox.
Oh Manel, Canter nova!
Claro, e podes atestar. A Canter ofereceu-me 500 euros em combustível.
Agora quer falar.
Até 31 de dezembro, na compra da sua nova Canter, oferta de 500 euros em combustível. Não perca esta oferta e saiba mais num concessionário Fuso perto de si. Canter, juntos carregamos Portugal.
Repare nos carros à sua volta. Aquele ali parado vai à velocidade da luz. Atrás de si, assim, a senhora de cabelo comprido, também à velocidade da luz. E hoje ainda vai cruzar-se com mais uns 5 ou 6. Ou 7. Quem já anda à velocidade da luz, anda mais à frente. E merece tudo. Por isso, a Galp juntou soluções e serviços de energia para a estrada e casa num só cartão. Peça o seu em galpelectric.pt. O futuro da mobilidade chegou e é elétrico. Galp Electric. Galp. Energia cria energia.
Quando o assunto é manutenção do seu carro, o que compensa é ser cliente Japa Automotive e Vez Auto. Os sábados de 10 e 17 de novembro são Happy Days. Aproveite 50% de desconto na mudança de óleo, 35% na correia de distribuição, oferta de check-up e lavagem, entre outros. 10 e 17 de novembro são Happy Days. Marque já 808 200 380 ou em japaautomotive.pt ou vezauto.pt. Japa Automotive e Vez Auto. No Norte e na Grande Lisboa, a sua opção Renault.
Nunca fui tão feliz.
Em Jum.pt a felicidade é dobrar. Até 16 de novembro faça uma compra online e dedique a um familiar, a um amigo ou uma instituição. Todas as semanas a dedicatória vencedora irá ganhar um ano de compras grátis e um ano de combustível em cartão para quem fez a dedicatória e para quem a recebeu. Consulte o regulamento em Jum.pt. Jumbo, tudo para o ver feliz.
Não é o senhor do lado negro da força. É a Isabel Costa, 34 anos, fumadora, que mora num terceiro andar sem elevador e que ainda não experimentou Depurmon. Com Depurmon, respirar é uma limpeza. Depurmon, à venda em farmácias.
Esse é um modelo de 2016. Único dono e... Sr. Silva?
Car Match. Uma feira de usados que combinam com o seu perfil. São mais de 600 carros com 3 anos de garantia. Saia do flerte e leve 300 euros em combustível. De 16 a 18 de novembro nos centros Car Next de Carnaxide, Matosinhos. Indique o código Surpresa RFM e ganhe uma oferta. Saiba mais em carmatch.pt.
Senhor Silva? Senhor Silva?
Acorde com o toque de magia do seu smartphone. Deixe-se levar pelo toque romântico do cinema em sua casa. E ao entrar na cozinha, sinta o toque de inspiração nos seus eletrodomésticos. Euronics, um toque humano num mundo digital.
Nova baixa impressionante de preços em pneus. Na Norauto baixamos o preço a mais de 150 mil pneus. Encontre também a montagem e alinhamento aos preços mais baixos de sempre. Na Norauto garantimos o melhor preço. Norauto, uma loja e uma oficina.
Não abdica de estar na moda? Cashback Vila do Conde Porto Fashion Outlet de 16 a 18 de novembro. Até 10% do valor de todas as compras que fizer volta para si. Já a partir desta sexta-feira. Saiba mais em viladocondefashionoutlet.pt.
Senti o carro a escorregar demasiado com piso molhado. Passei na Citroën para verificar e comprei pneus Eurorepar 205/55 R16 por apenas 49€ cada. Serviço nota 10. Faça já a sua marcação em citroen.pt e descubra os pneus Eurorepar. Serviço após venda Citroën. Recomendado por mim.
Citroën.
A tua música está aqui.
Hey, this is Imagine Dragons.
A tua música está aqui.
Hey, this is Halsey.
RFM.
RFM.
Muito boa noite, já estamos a 6 minutos das 8. Bem-vindo ao Wi-Fi. Já cá estamos. Joana Cruz, Rodrigo Gomes e Daniel Fontoura. Faz boa viagem com Skoda, agora com manutenção incluída e tudo a 0%. Mantém-se ali o acidente na A5, sentido Lisboa, é depois do nó do estádio. Depois, um pouco mais à frente, há outro acidente, ambos na via esquerda e a provocar demora. Volta a complicar de Monsanto para a ponte e, no inverso, o trânsito está lento entre Miraflores e o estádio. Os acessos para a 25 de Abril continuam preenchidos. Na A2, sentido sul, por causa do incêndio de uma viatura. Um incêndio que já está extinto. Ficou o trânsito ali mais acumulado desde a segunda ponte do Feijó até à saída do Fogueteiro. Mais de resto, as lentidões habituais no IC19, na Cril, na VCI, A3 e A4. Já daqui a pouco na RFM continuam as grandes músicas com Ricky Martin. Tens aí Fiebre, para já a atualização das notícias com Luís Araújo.
Olá, boa noite. O Ministro do Trabalho, Vieira da Silva, diz não ao PCP. Os comunistas querem a reforma antecipada para qualquer trabalhador que tenha 40 anos de descontos, independentemente da idade. E hoje no Parlamento, Vieira da Silva foi claro na resposta às pretensões do PCP. O Governo fez as contas, é uma medida inviável, não há segurança social que aguente, sublinhou o Ministro do Trabalho. Um ligeiro toque de caudas durante a descolagem no Funchal esteve na origem da aterragem não planeada do Boeing 737 da Transávia, hoje em Faro. Segundo a companhia aérea, depois de uma inspeção técnica em Faro, a aeronave foi autorizada a retomar o seu voo para Amsterdão, um voo que continuou com atraso de cerca de 2h30. A Amnistia Internacional anunciou hoje que vai retirar a alta honra de embaixadora de consciência a Aung San Suu Kyi, Prémio Nobel da Paz em 1991 e atual líder de Myanmar, a antiga Birmânia. A líder birmanesa é acusada de indiferença perante as atrocidades cometidas pelos militares.
Uma gestora dedicada? Sim, sou. Mas não é por ter esse nome. É porque me dedico, porque me interesso, porque estudo o mercado e ouço o cliente para, em conjunto, encontrarmos a melhor solução para cada objetivo. O que diz que um gestor é dedicado é o seu compromisso e não o seu cartão de visita.
Se o que procura num banco é um gestor que realmente se dedica a cada detalhe da sua vida financeira, fale connosco. Temos o gestor NB360 à sua espera. Novo Banco 360. Está nos detalhes.
Este Wi-Fi não precisa de password.
Joana Cruz, Rodrigo Gomes e Daniel Fontoura. Wi-Fi na RFM.
Pierdo el sentido, me va bajando despacito por el cuello hasta el ombligo y sabes, no tiene cura y voy perdiendo los modales, educación y compostura. Fiebre que no descansa y va bajando lentamente resbalando por mi espalda y sube a 40 grados, me recorre todo el cuerpo cuando pasas a mi lado. Dime cómo hacer para quitar mis penas, que mi corazón no aguanta tanta presión. Yo me la paso cada día pensando en ti, en tus ojos negros y en tu risa bella. Yo me la paso cada día pensando en ti y que entre tus brazos pierdo la cabeza. Ven, cúrame suavecito todo este calor que va por mis venas. Ay, cúrame suavecito que solo tú tienes la receta.
Yo tengo un padecimiento en el corazón.
Tú eres mi receta.
¿Viste el doblete? Demasiado caliente. Qué rica la cara, nadie la para. Temperatura sube como desierto de Sahara. Ella escucha mi música y se encendió. Trago en mano y el motor lo prendió. Dale, cúrame, desnúdate. Enfócate, baby, dame un chance, solo revélate. Tú y tus amigas están sudando. Yo te sigo mirando, te sigo imaginando.
¿Por qué no te quedas conmigo? Baby, tú eres fuego que quema.
Es que tu cuerpo es adictivo
y eso a mí me causa problemas. Yo me la paso cada día pensando en ti, en tus ojos negros y en tu risa bella. Yo me la paso cada día pensando en ti y que entre tus brazos pierdo la cabeza. Ven, cúrame suavecito todo este calor que va por mis venas. Ay, cúrame suavecito que solo tú tienes la receta. Tú eres mi receta.
Confía en mí y ya verás que conmigo se detiene el tiempo y quedarás adicta a mí. Sin tocarte me caliento. Quítame esta fiebre y mátame las ganas. Es una llama que solo tu cuerpo apaga. Yo quiero sentir tus besos mojados. Dame más de ti. Mírate en el momento indicado.
Yo me la paso cada día pensando en ti, en tus ojos negros y en tu risa bella. Yo me la paso cada día pensando en ti y que entre tus brazos pierdo la cabeza. Ven, cúrame suavecito todo este calor que va por mis venas. Ay, cúrame suavecito que solo tú tienes la receta. Tú eres mi receta.
RFM, grande boa noite, grupo.
Wi-Fi na RFM.
Bem-vindo ao Wi-Fi, cá estamos, Joana Cruz, Rodrigo Gomes e Daniel Fontoura.
É nóis, e quero só dizer que o importante é o convívio.
Ora bem.
É sim, senhor. E também é importante para a tua saúde dizeres palavrões. Isto é uma coisa que deixa o Daniel Fontoura muito contente, porque como homem do Norte...
Com certeza.
Não, há sempre esta teoria que as pessoas do Norte fartam-se de dizer palavrões.
É
e, portanto, às vezes aproveito-me desse facto.
São muito saudáveis.
Eu já não sendo do Norte. Bom, às vezes parece, não é? Bom, mas de facto faz muito bem, toda a gente sabe. Atenção, as crianças vão mais ou menos não perceber o que é que vamos falar daqui a bocadinho.
E vão tapar os ouvidos nessa altura.
Certo.
E vai ficar uma pergunta no ar. Se podes mudar de sexo, se podes mudar de nome, por que não poderes mudar de idade?
É uma grande questão da humanidade. Vamos tentar responder a isso durante este Wi-Fi. Nós temos também que dizer que esta hora do jantar, hora do jantar, não é almoço, hoje é dia de pizza sem anchovas.
Claro, ninguém. Hoje, amanhã, depois, ontem.
A pergunta que eu faço é: quem é que gosta de pizza com anchovas?
Ninguém.
Há pessoas neste momento do outro lado do rádio a dizer eu gosto.
Mas bom, agora eu gostava de quebrar aqui um bocadinho o entusiasmo e dar conta da morte.
Vais falar tudo isso, não é?
Não, exato, pode ser.
A morte de quem?
Do Stan Lee. Criador do universo Marvel, inventou personagens como o Homem-Aranha, o Hulk, o X-Men, os Vingadores, o Homem de Ferro.
O Stan Lee inventou-se ele próprio, porque apareceu em vários filmes a fazer dele próprio.
Qual é que é o favorito? Quem é que gostas mais?
É difícil, porque são super-heróis que são muito densos.
Não há um que tenha todos os poderes, não é?
Não, eu acho que eles fizeram de propósito. Eles dividiram poderes por todos, que era para não haver um que reunisse
assim, no
as
mundo,
qualidades todas.
Tu, por exemplo, és muito bonito. Estou a brincar. Agora escolham.
Achei que hoje. Pois, ali está muito bonito e falou para o meio de nós dois.
Exato.
RFM, muito boa noite. Estás com o Wi-Fi Macklemore e Kesha. Tens aí para ouvir agora Good Old Days. E falamos também daqui a pouco da campanha de Natal da RFM.
I wish somebody would have told me, babe, someday these will be the good old days. All the love you won't forget, and all these reckless nights you won't regret. Someday soon your whole life's gonna change. You'll miss the magic of these good old days.
I was thinking about the band, I was thinking about the fans. We were underground, loading merch in that 12-passenger van, in a small club in Minnesota, and the snow outside of First Ave. I just wanted my name and a star. Now look at where we at, still growing up, still growing up. I would lay in my bed and dream about what I've become. Couldn't wait to get older, couldn't wait to be some. Now that I'm here, wishing I was still young. Those good old days.
I wish somebody would have told me, babe, that someday these would be the good old days. All the love you won't forget, and all these reckless nights you won't regret. Cause someday soon your whole life's gonna change. You'll miss the magic of the good old days.
Wish I didn't think I had the answers. Wish I didn't drink all of that blast first. Wish I made it to homecoming, got up the courage to ask her. Wish I would've gotten out of my shell. Wish I put the bottle back on that shelf. Wish I wouldn't have worried about what other people thought and felt comfortable with myself. Rooftop open, and the stars above. Moment frozen, sneaking out and falling in love. Me, you, and that futon, we just begun. On the grass dreaming, figuring out who I was. Those good old days.
I wish somebody would've told me, babe, that someday these would be the good old days. All the love you won't forget, and all these reckless nights you won't regret. Cause someday soon your whole life's gonna change. You'll miss the magic of the good old days.
Never thought we'd get old. Maybe we're still young. Maybe you always look back and think it was better than it was. Maybe these are the moments. Maybe I've been missing what it's about. Been scared of the future, thinking about the past, while missing out on now. We've come so far, I guess I'm proud. And I ain't worried about the wrinkles around my smile. I got some scars, I've been around. I felt some pain, I've seen some things, but I'm here now. Those good old days.
You don't know what you got till it goes, till it's gone. You don't know what you got till it goes, till it's gone.
I was thinking about the band, I was thinking about the fans. We were underground, loading merch in that 12-passenger van, in a small club in Minnesota, and the snow outside of First Ave. I just wanted my name and a star. Now look at where we at, still growing, still growing. I'm in my bed and dream about what I've become. Couldn't wait to get
Wi-Fi na RFM.
Now that I'm here,
é grátis.
wishing I was still young. Those good old days.
I wish somebody would've told.
Passa a mão no rosto sem perceber. Pede mais copo para esquecer. E torna tudo isto um pouco menos difícil de aguentar. Sorriu para mim sem me conhecer. Pergunto-lhe se nos voltamos a ver um dia noutro sítio. Se eu me lembrar disto amanhã. Às vezes só queria desaparecer, perder-me nos teus braços até morrer.
Se isto é o paraíso, então já não preciso de outro lugar. Às vezes só queria desaparecer, perder-me nos teus braços até morrer. Se isto é o paraíso, então já não preciso de outro lugar. Passas-me na mente e eu volto de repente àquele nosso sítio que eu não consigo deixar. Não sei se é de mim ou não queres saber. Pergunto-me se nos voltamos a ver, porque nada é impossível quando ainda é possível acreditar. Ei, às vezes só queria desaparecer, perder-me nos teus braços até morrer. Se foi o paraíso, não quero outro sítio para voltar. Às vezes só queria desaparecer, perder-me nos teus braços até morrer. Se foi o paraíso, não quero outro sítio para voltar. Hey. Oh, 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 oh. Não me deixes agora, não agora, porque eu já mal consigo distinguir aonde é o paraíso sem ti. Às vezes só queria desaparecer, perder-me nos teus braços até morrer. Se isto é o paraíso, às vezes só queria desaparecer, perder-me nos teus braços até morrer. Se isto é o paraíso, então já não preciso de outro lugar. Ei, se isto é o paraíso, então já não preciso de outro lugar. Oh, se foi o paraíso, não quero outro sítio para voltar.
Já não falta muito para o Natal. Vai calhar também uma segunda-feira, a véspera de Natal. O dia 25 será numa terça. E entretanto...
Natal é 25, por acaso, este ano.
É, calha, este ano calha. E nós, estando quase no Natal e por esta altura, obviamente que é sempre uma altura mais delicada e pensamos um bocadinho mais nos outros. E a RFM e a Vorten, portanto, estão a desafiar-te neste momento a pensar no futuro de alguém que por vezes acha que não tem oportunidades. E há cada vez mais raparigas que não continuam a estudar por falta de condições, muitas vezes financeiras, mas não só. De cada vez que uma sai da escola, há sonhos que caem por terra, não é?
Este Natal podes fazer a diferença, porque a RFM vai ajudar a Associação Corações com Coroa para conseguir verbas para atribuir bolsas de estudo que vão marcar a vida de alguém. Yeah. Para isso, nós juntamos-nos também ao Código da A20 da Vorten.
É muito importante que as pessoas saibam isto e de uma vez por todas não achem que isto é mito. As mulheres em Portugal ainda são prejudicadas.
É verdade, sim senhor.
Sai mais cedo da escola ou para ajudar a família, para fazer outras coisas, e muitas vezes são elas que têm que abandonar a escola em detrimento dos homens, e por isso nós estamos aqui a dar uma oportunidade e estamos a ajudar o Corações com Coroa para continuar a apoiar estas meninas.
São questões socioculturais, enfim, coisas muito profundas, mas que às vezes, fazendo aqui a diferença numa coisa pequena, tu consegues então mudar a vida de alguém. Só tens que escolher o valor que queres dar e fazer o pagamento online em vorten.pt ou nas caixas, quando fores às lojas Vorten. É só passares o código DA20 as vezes que quiseres no final de uma compra, ou mesmo sem teres feito compra nenhuma.
Sim, podes só ir lá à Vorten, passar o código e ir à tua vida.
E podemos ir agradecendo desde já, porque tu nunca nos falhas e todos os anos, em todas as campanhas a que a RFM se junta, tu estás lá, por isso obrigado desde já.
Sem dúvida nenhuma. Começa nos 20 cêntimos, múltiplos de 20 cêntimos, é aquilo que quiseres e puderes. Nós já estamos a contar contigo, por isso sabe mais em rfm.sa.pt. E amanhã, Catarina Furtado, grande criadora da Associação Corações com Coroa, vai estar aqui no Café da Manhã da RFM.
There are days I wake up and I pinch myself. You're with me, not someone else. And I'm scared, yeah, I'm still scared. That is all a dream. 'Cause you still look perfect as days go by. Even the worst ones, you make me smile. I'd stop the world if it gave us time. 'Cause when you love someone, you open up your heart. When you love someone, you make room. If you love someone and you're not afraid to lose them, you probably never loved someone like I do. You probably never loved someone like I do. When you say you love the way I make you feel, everything becomes so real.
Morning, Trainiacs. Big day calls for a big shake. Now I know the other day when I did that video talking about spirulina, a bunch of the trainer haters out there lost their freaking minds, but I don't care because A, I do actually drink it every day. Nailed it. And B, you can't get me down today, because today is a good day. We are getting ourselves a new website. Up until today, we had the old triathlonterran.com that I've sort of like pieced together on my own / hired a friend of Kim's who she used to work with, who did the website for us on the side. And at one point the idea was that I was going to start building blog content on that site, and we just didn't do that. Like I said before, that I always gravitate more towards
Swimming may be your strongest discipline, or it may be your weakest. Either way, we're all searching for ways to swim faster. So we've got the help of Uber swimmer Lucy Charles.
So here are my top 5 tips for swimming faster. Okay, so my first tip that I'm going to talk about is the catch, which is basically the front end of your stroke. And a lot of people, when you say catch, they're like, what do you mean by catch? So basically, it is the front end of your stroke. You want to anchor, you want to catch the water, and you want to feel the water. And the main thing is really to be more efficient. So the more water you can catch, the easier you're going to get through the water, and the faster you're going to move through it. So that's sort of my first tip.
So how would you go about sort of reinforcing it or seeing whether you are getting that catch or not?
Yeah, so the easiest thing is if you can get your coach to film you whilst you're swimming, because when I've been filmed before and watched it back, I couldn't actually believe that was me swimming. So if you can get your coach to film you, then you can actually really see what you're doing. Even better, if you can get access to an endless pool with a mirror on the bottom, then you can really see what you're doing that way.
So is that what you do yourself then?
Yeah, so I'm lucky enough to have one at home, so I really can reinforce, and I think my strokes actually improved just from seeing that.
Brilliant. And then are there actually any drills that you can do to actually help that catch?
Yeah, definitely. So sculling is a key one really, because you're strengthening your forearms, and one that I always set people and they always laugh is doggy paddle, because it really is the catch part of your stroke. You might feel silly doing it, but it really does work. Okay, so my next tip is structured swim sessions. I think if you get in and you haven't got a plan and you're just plodding up and down aimlessly, one, it's going to be really boring and you're not going to get a lot from it. So if you've got a plan when you get in, you're going to get tons more from the session and it's actually going to be way more enjoyable.
Yeah, I think a lot of people fall into the trap of just trying to cover the distance they're going to do on race day, and there's no real meaning to the session. So you get in and you actually follow a really structured session then, and different on each days perhaps?
Yeah, so every day is normally different. I make sure there's a lot of variation because I find swimming quite boring, if I'm honest, so I'm not going to lie. Yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing is if you've got a squad available to you and you can get in and swim with a squad, then I'd 100% go with that.
So it's that motivation as well?
Yeah, you've got that slight competitive element, you've got other people pushing you, and you've got that bit more social element that you don't often get from swimming, so 100% go with that.
I think I'm very much the same actually.
Okay, so up next I want to talk about arm rate, which is basically your cadence of your stroke. And for triathlon and open water swimming, a high cadence stroke rate often works a lot better. And I'm fairly lucky in that even when I was a pool swimmer, I had quite a high cadence stroke rate, where if you compare me to my other half Reese, he had quite a long, slow stroke rate. And he was always much faster than me in the pool, but when we went over to open water, he often struggled. So he's actually had to adapt his stroke rate now to a high cadence, especially for open water.
So what is it that you kind of need that high cadence for?
Particularly if it's really choppy in the water, it actually helps a lot more to have high cadence because you can not fight with the waves, you actually can get through them and it works a lot better.
Because I guess the water's moving, so you've got more chance of catching a stroke.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about earlier, the catch, if you've got a good catch and a high cadence stroke rate, you will really work with the waves and move through the water that much better.
Is there anything you do in training to help that, or perhaps Reese is trying to implement in his training?
Yeah, I mean, often you can actually do sort of, I'd say, do half a length sprinting, but you're actually exaggerating that high cadence stroke rate, so you're doing it way more than you would, but you're going, yeah, over and above. And if you can do that, then when you're kind of doing high cadence but not exaggerated, it feels more normal.
So bring on those windmill arms.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so my next tip is bilateral breathing, which basically means being able to breathe to both sides. And when I was a swimmer, I actually only breathed to the right-hand side because I was a lot faster like that. And when I moved into triathlon, I actually found I had a lot of issues and some injuries from bike and run because I was so imbalanced from only rotating to that direction. So in that respect, I would definitely say you should bilateral breathe. But also in open water, you need to see what is going on both sides of you. So yeah, I definitely say get in the pool and breathe to both sides.
So when you're swimming in the open water, if someone approached on your left hand side, you switch and start breathing so you could see them?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously I've had to work on breathing that way as well because I'm much more efficient breathing to the right. So, but obviously if you say there's someone coming up on your left and you don't look that way, you're not going to know they're there, you're not going to make use of drafting from them or anything like that. So yeah, you want to know what's going on either side.
So how have you helped to improve that breathing in your training?
So when I'm swimming like the warm-up or swimming slowly, I'll make sure I'm bilateral breathing, or even make sure I'm actually breathing to the weaker side, so I'm getting stronger that way. But I still tend to revert back to breathing to the other side.
Because I guess it's quite hard to implement it in the middle of a hard session, because, I mean, you're trying to work really hard. You're going to opt for your preferred option there, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I've got that competitive nature as well, that if I'm getting left behind on a set with these faster swimmers because I'm breathing to my weaker side, then I'm going to revert back to breathing on my
So on
side.
the easy parts, the warm downs, the recoveries, that's the good.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, I would almost call it like a rehab because I'm strengthening the other side by breathing the other way. So whenever it's easy stuff, I definitely make sure I'm bilateral breathing. Okay, so my next tip is speed work, and you may think this sounds pretty crazy because the distance I'm doing is an Ironman and it's very much endurance, but I definitely wouldn't neglect the speed work. You want to make sure you've got that initial speed to break out at the start And then if someone is going to surge in the swim, you want to make sure you've got that speed to be able to react.
So what sort of session would you do in a week?
So my key session would be something like 30-50, so I'll do that nearly every week, really working on the speed and breaking it.
They all out maximum efforts?
So they'll vary from 25 max to sort of 3/4 of the way to a whole 50 max. So yeah, you've got 3 and then you're building your way through them.
So we go, there's some top tips to swim faster with Lucy Charles. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button, and to see more great videos from GTN, click on the globe to subscribe.
And if you want to see the swim skills video, click below.
And if you want to see some swim workouts, click here. Right, when we talk about riding our bikes fast in a triathlon, there is one name that springs to mind. It is Cam Worth. So thanks so much for joining us today, Cam.
Thanks for having me and my bike.
So Cam owns the Ironman World Championship bike course record and has just set the Nice bike course record, and is working up to another stellar performance for 2018 World Ironman Championships. So today we're going to be running through some top tips from Cam. Okay, Cam, our first top tip for the bike.
When I'm racing, I try not to think too much about metrics. I try to think about riding fast. And what I mean by riding fast is you've got to look for speed on the course, and then that can sometimes mean accelerating over a rise and accelerating down the other side to get up to top speed, and then you might sort of have a bit of a flush the legs and back things off a bit. And it's a bit like what we do in a time trial on the road. Because I found that when I just try and keep a steady power, while that in theory for triathletes is meant to work, I'm not really your normal triathlete. So I've obviously come from a very different background, and it didn't help me run any better. So I feel like I need to be more racy. I mean, I like to treat it as a race. So I'm out there racing. I'm not out there trying to do my personal best. I'm out there trying to beat everybody.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, the fastest way to obviously to ride a time trial is to find ways to find speed on the course.
So you're actually, rather than getting too bogged down in the watts, the power that you're putting out, it's actually that speed, because at the end of the day, the speed is contributing to how fast you go and the time that you're
It doesn't matter how much power you've got. If you're going slow, you're going to go slow. So the most important thing is to go fast. I mean, in Kona, I didn't even have a power meter. I just didn't bother looking at it. And so once I was on my own, I was able to feel the speed and feel the road, and there's lots of rollers there. There's lots of opportunities to go fast. And, I mean, obviously that, for me personally, comes from years of racing on the road where you're either riding on the front, and looking for opportunities to, increase the speed of the bunch, with ease, and then obviously have periods of recovery as well. And now I've taken that same approach into triathlon. But I think for everyone, I mean, I understand there's a big training focus on average power over a certain period of time. But if you break it down, not many people are going to do that optimal 4 to 5 hour power in training really anyway. So for that longer period of time. So breaking it into small pieces, and just concentrating on riding your bike quick for a perceived effort. And that's I guess is probably the key word there, is focusing on perceived effort as opposed to, average power.
Next top tip for us.
Clothing. And basically and the sort of the easier ways to get some free speed. If I had $1,000, I'd spend 800 of it on my suit and my helmet, and not that much on aerodynamics for my frame or for my wheels or anything like that, because this is the thing that's slowing you down. So, I hear a lot of people talking about tyre widths and fitting in the rim and this and that and whatever else, but they're using a helmet that I know is a piece of junk or an outfit that, has a huge amount of drag on it. So, invest wisely, especially if you're, on a bit of a budget, which most triathletes generally are when they're buying this stuff. It's not cheap. And I guarantee you that you're going to find more speed out on the course by having a really good, fast, reputable suit and helmet, it's got to fit really well. That's the start. I mean, if there's anything flapping or baggy, well, obviously it doesn't work. So yeah, I mean, find a suit that fits you, but then do your research. I mean, you just want to make sure you're not constantly jiggling and wiggling and worrying about where it sits.
Okay, and on the aero helmet, visor, no visor, tail, no tail?
Again, with that one, I mean, the helmet is the most important. The glasses, you know, and visor, I've certainly done a lot of testing and found pretty negligible as to the advantage.
Okay.
You can obviously have more of an advantage by having more wind on your face because it cools you down. So if you think about over the course of 4.5, 5, 6 hours or however long you're out there, probably having that cooling effect on your face is going to be of greater performance advantage than having a visor covering it and making you hot and uncomfortable. And a helmet, I mean, if you have a position where you like looking around and up and down, there's no point having a helmet with a big tail on it, you know, and one that's molded to your back. You're better off getting, you know, something like what I wore in Kona is perfect, that the Cas Bambino. It's been around for a long time, and
so small, it's got almost like a little bump.
It's almost like just a normal, you know, helmet, but obviously it's very, you know, very well made, very aerodynamic at the front, which is where the wind hits. One of those is probably the way to go.
Okay, our third tip.
Find a bike that fits you, not you try and find a bike that you want to fit. I see so many people that, you know, they got the bike of their dreams or they want it and then they find out it's not comfortable. I mean, not every bike is for every person. I personally tried about 6 different bikes last year. And I define a bike by fitting by, I can really have the position anywhere and it's comfortable.
Okay.
So I could certainly find a more aggressive position and I could probably hold that for 5 minutes, but I can't do it for 5 hours.
So very different from, and the same with the kit as well, I guess, is we're talking about being on the bike for 4+ hours, not 20 minutes for a 10-mile time trial.
That's right. That's right. And so you might be great for 5-10 minutes, but you'll be walking in 5 hours' time if you're on a bike that's uncomfortable. So, you know, do your homework, ask around, don't rush. You know, find something that really fits you, that feels really comfortable. And then once you've found something that's comfortable, it's at that point that you start looking for that free speed. It's at that point that you start to modify things, you start to move your arms, you start to move your saddle position, do little tweaks here and there, but certainly don't get a bike and say, oh, okay, now I've got to try and make it fit me. If you want to have an enjoyable Ironman, this is.
Okay, Cam, now you've already slightly touched on this already, but I'm really interested to hear about how you pace for a triathlon, specifically a long distance triathlon.
Yeah, I mean, the key thing in an Ironman is you know you're going to have these big peaks and troughs. I mean, you're never out there for that long and feel amazing all the time. So it needs to sort of change with how you're feeling. And some days, for example, if you're having a really tough day, the places where it's hard, there's no point going hard when you're feeling like because you're going to feel a lot worse. So when I'm having those tough moments, I tend to take it really easy where it's hard. And then I give it, you know, as much as I've got or as much as I'm comfortable with putting out where it's easy. And then psychologically, you can be like, wow, I'm really going on this descent. Like I've really got some good power. I'm really feeling good. And that can often also be enough to just turn your body around a little bit, because a lot of it is, you know, even a placebo. You really need to just get out of, I mean, you've just got out of the water laying on your stomach for however long. You really need to let everything settle down, you know, and I just like to just sort of get into the ride. And then that last 20 minutes, I really look forward to it because I feel like I'm home, you know, and I can then start to just sort of back it off and freshen up a little bit. But that middle part, yeah, it's really, really variable. And I guess the key thing there is if you don't feel good, don't make yourself feel worse. Just be aware it's a long day.
And do you analyse the course before so that you know those sections and how to attack them and how to ride them?
If you can do recon of a course, it's always the best. I mean, again, you waste a lot of psychological energy worrying about what's coming up. It's like I see the difference when I'm behind and then when I get in front. You know, you're like behind and you're looking up the road and you're seeing where you're going, and then all of a sudden you're in front, and then for some reason you're just more relaxed.
Yeah.
It seems so much easier. Yet, in theory, you should be a hell of a lot more tired because you've had to get there. Knowledge of the course is crucial. And obviously knowing where a hard climb is going to finish or a long descent's going to be, or, you know, the rest stop, the feed zones, all those things. you know, are all really important to having a great race.
Okay, finally, another thing that I'm quite interested in, and we get asked a lot on the channel, is about riding a TT bike, that TT Focus. How often do you ride this bike?
Once a week, once every 2 weeks, once every 10 days. Yeah, I mean, certainly not more than once a week. You can't naturally produce the same amount of power and strength and speed in this position as you can on a normal road bike, which is obviously much more comfortable, much more powerful position. So 75 to 80% of my training is all done on a road bike, and just a little bit on this, just to make sure my muscles and everything know how to do it, and enough that on race day it's not like oh wow, what on earth are you doing to me here? You know, it's comfortable.
Yeah.
It means I can enjoy my training more. You know, it's obviously much more enjoyable riding up mountains on a road bike and down the other side.
Cool. So in terms of the training you're actually doing, the TT session or two that you do during the week, that is very much tri-focused.
Yeah, the one session I'll always do is very much a tri-focus sort of a training session, you know, it's always a brick, you know, and it's generally anywhere between 2 and 4 hours of race pace, you know, whether it's a half Ironman pace or a full Ironman sort of an effort. You never seem to overachieve in this sport. You know, if you haven't done it in training, you're not going to do it on race day. So if you want to be able to ride a good time trial in an Ironman, because everyone says, how do I ride faster? How do I ride faster? I was like, well, I don't really know, but I ride that fast all the time in training. I mean, I'm not actually doing anything special on race day. I'm merely trying to do as good a bike as possible, so I can also do a good run. So I think that's another key point. You know, you need to train the way you race.
Well, I like the phrase, train hard, race easy.
Exactly, and that's really how I mean, especially in this sport, when you're training for 3 different things, day in, day out, you have a lot of accumulated fatigue, you're training on tired legs a lot. You know, I mean, you really should be able to enjoy race day. I mean, that should be the best day of them all. So, but yeah, I mean, it's different for everyone. But again, a bit like with the pacing, a bit like when you're on the course, a bit like starting to stay comfortable, those little things to make sure that you feel good throughout the race, adopt that in your training. You know, if you're not comfortable on your time trial bike riding it 5 days a week, don't do it. Yeah. You know, ride something else, or go for a walk, or ride a mountain bike or something. You know, mix it up, because you're still getting the neuromuscular benefits. So.
Well, that's been amazing, Cam. Thanks so much for that. I think there's some really valuable tips that everyone's going to take away in this video. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you'd like to see more videos from GTN, just click on the globe and subscribe.
Particularly the swimming one by Lucy Charles, which I watch all the time because I need to improve my swimming.
Well, that's where all our views come from. If you'd like to see our Emma Pallant video, top tips to run faster, just click down here.
Well, we've come down to the coast on the edge of San Jordi, Mallorca, to catch up with ex-international runner turned pro triathlete Emma Pallant. Thanks for joining us today, Emma.
No worries, thanks for having me.
Well, we are going to be picking Emma's brains on basically how to run fast, and she has got 5 top tips on how to run like a pro. Now, Emma, what is your first on your list?
So number 1 would definitely be your run technique. So yeah, we all learn to bike, we all learn to swim, but yeah, not many of us actually think about how we're running. So I'd say number 1, technique is massively important.
And where do you start with your technique? How do you know if you're doing it wrong or what you're doing wrong?
So I think the first 2 major warning signs are if you're getting injured, or if your sessions are progressing and your speeds just aren't. Then yeah, there's normally something wrong with you've got a dead spot in your running, you're using the wrong muscles. Yeah, you just need a breakdown of your technique.
And any tips on, like, you know, someone say, you know, identifies with being injured or with not improving what their fitness is, how do you identify that, the cause of that?
Yeah, so the range is massive. Like, I've seen so many people from the people I coached, just looking at people running outside. There's so many different ways of, because we're sitting on our major muscles that we're meant to use for running. We all compensate normally in a different way if they're switched off. So yeah, the first thing is find out why.
So a million coaches and stuff out there, but maybe look at the people that have a good technique, the people that are running well, get them to analyse you, the people that know their stuff, like how do they run fast.
Who have you learnt from as a runner? Who have you looked up to learn techniques or to?
Yeah, so as a runner, I had a really bad knee injury, I had a knee surgery, and I met Michelle Dillon when I moved to triathlon, and yeah, she basically broke everything down, so taught me how to run again, and yeah, it was tough. It was tough to relearn totally new motor patterns.
Yeah, I think that's really encouraging for people to hear that, you know, someone who's such a good runner as you've actually broken it down and almost started again. That's got to be encouraging for a lot of age groupers out there.
So tip number 2 would be get the right footwear. So again, there's such a range of shoes on the market, and for a good reason. We all run differently, and we all find something more comfortable than others. So I'd say take your time to block out a whole day maybe, and go to a running store, a proper running shop with a huge range, get on the treadmill and run in each one till maybe even 10 minutes, make a session out of it, until you find something that actually feels like a part of you. For me, it was Hoka's. I've moved, through shoes, and I finally found what works for me. And you're almost like your biking shoes, you feel part of the pedal. The same thing, you want your shoes to feel part of your feet, really. And take your time, because if you're like, shoes can be this simple thing between getting injured and not getting injured, and maybe those ones are 60 quid more expensive, but if it saves you 10 physio sessions, then buy 2 pairs.
Okay, on to point number 3. What have you got next?
Point number 3 would be gym work. So again, like we go back to swimming, a lot of people will learn good habits, good motor patterns and strength work outside of the pool, so land training. The same thing with running. If you can get the right muscles that you need to fire up, if you can get the muscles that are weak for you, if you can get them strong, and get the muscles that you're overusing to relax, you're ingraining good habits so that when you run, it will become easier to actually ingrain the new habits.
And you talked about earlier on, you know, that we spend a lot of time sitting, so a lot is switched off posteriorly. And you do a bit of coaching yourself as well. Do you see most of your athletes, it's the posterior chain that's not firing and the front needs switching off, or?
Yeah, massively so, because at the end of the day, the glutes, they're the biggest muscle in our body, and like you say, if we're switching them off, so much of the posterior chain you can't connect with the core, the center around it. If that's switched off, you can't connect the other parts of the chain. So yeah, it's working throughout the whole range, and then again using something like yoga, some recovery method, to also help switch off more of the chain that you are overloading.
And what do you actually do in the gym? What do you work on for your running style?
Yeah, so I do a lot of glute work, hamstring work, calf work, but more functional. So you don't want the strength to come from the calves. The running comes from the hips, not from the feet. So yeah, it's making the lighter muscles functional, and the big gross kind of core muscles like your core and your glutes, making them the strong, those the power work, and velocity things for like your speed hamstring work.
And I think, again, like so many of us are guilty of thinking, you know, we've got to run, swim, cycle, and then that's all we've got time for. And if we've got time for another session, we'll do another run or we'll do another bike. But it's easy to overlook that because you don't necessarily see the benefit straight away, do you? But
yeah, definitely. And again, it's looking to the future. Like, do I want to take 2 weeks off injured, or knock 5 minutes off my run to fire up the right muscles beforehand and stretch off the right muscles afterwards? And yeah, you've got to, if something has to give, like, gym work should be the last thing that drops, and it is boring. Like, take a mate along, put some good tunes on, like whatever makes it more interesting for you, but yeah, do it, feel it, and vary it.
Well, Emma, that takes us on to point 4. What have you got now?
My top tip number 4 would be the flow. So feel the flow of your running. Yeah, in this day and age, we're very data driven, which can be great for some things, but yeah, sometimes it makes you too rigid. So to get the feel, like when you're in the pool, you don't want to fight the water, you want to feel it, you want everything in motion. The same thing, sometimes you can overforce the running. So learning how to relax and get your flow. I don't know, so many things work for different people. Like, I use music, some people do like the deep breathing. But yeah, just learning sometimes just the feel of your body, like that's the most powerful tool, like your own feedback. That's where you can just push yourself, sometimes even beyond limits that you thought you had.
And I know that, like, you know, for you say just enjoy the running and relax, and you are a very natural runner. Watching you run looks great, and you know you must enjoy it naturally. But for someone who running is their weakest of the 3 disciplines and they find it hard work, how can they enjoy it? How can they help to learn to enjoy it?
Yeah, and I think that's massively where technique comes in. If your technique is good and your strength, like we were born to run, we were made to run, and yeah, for me it's that time. Like there's no session that I prefer more than like 2.5 hours, just me, my music, out in the sun, and that should be it. You should just feel at one with your body because it's the body's most natural movement.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would enjoy running a lot more if they had somewhere like Mallorca to go running and do their 2.5 run there. Cool, well that brings us on to our final point, Emma. What is it?
So my final tip would be have a variety. So again, we talk about that grey patch of training, so that grey zone where if you just 60 minutes all the time, just every day, just a 60-minute run, then you get into like plod mode, you get to that same speed, you're never going to get faster, and you're not getting the most out of your sessions. So I'd say vary it, like do your long runs, do your long, really steady aerobic, good form work, and then do your hard, like intensity, that point where you are accumulating lactic, where you're learning to move the muscles on real fatigue, and you do the 2 opposites. You do your easy really easy and your hard really hard, then you'll see progressions. It's very much like a race. You can't get the best out of your race if you don't learn to taper and be fresh for it, because you'll never be able to get to that deep dark place if you've got a little bit of fatigue in you.
That's a really good point. I think a lot of athletes and age groupers are worried to run too slowly because you've only got a certain amount of runs a week or a certain amount of runs in you, and doing that slow one you think kind of, oh well, I'm wasting a run. Like how slow do you do your slow ones, and how often do you put a slow run in or an easy run?
Yeah, so I learnt this when I was in Kenya. Our morning runs, we'd go out on empty, and yeah, I was always like loving it, like thinking drop in the Africans, and then you get annihilated. In the evening session, you get totally trashed. And the same thing, like Michelle and Stu sometimes will make me run the treadmill, make me run with them before a race if I'm meant to be going steady, or on a long run if I'm respecting the session that comes the next day. And it's such a discipline and control. And yeah, our hands up. I don't always run as steady as I should. But yeah, then I'll pay for it the next day in the session. I won't hit the times that I want to. And yeah, just get that look from Michelle like, yeah.
It's okay to take it easy sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Awesome. Emma, thank you so much. Some really interesting and useful tips as well.
Cheers, thanks for having me.
Well, if you've enjoyed this and you want to catch other GTM videos, just hit the globe to subscribe. And if you want to see a video Mark did with Lucy Charles on top 5 swim tips to go faster, that's just here.
And if you want to have a look at my bike, the great BMC, just click here.
I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Lionel Sanders, recent 2-times winner of the Challenge Championship and probably pretty famous for his indoor training. Now, Lionel, thanks for joining us, and I'm going to be picking your brains on how you train indoors and basically if you've got any tips for our viewers. So start off, if you can tell me why you do so much of your training indoors and how that kind of came about when you started triathlon.
Sure, yeah, it was, for the most part, it came to me. I got hit by cars 4 times in 4 years, one of which I woke up in the back of an ambulance, strapped to the board, front teeth knocked out, couldn't remember who I was, the whole thing. And I was like, is it worth it? Do I really want to die on my bicycle? Well, not so much by getting hit by cars, perhaps from pushing myself to the limit, but not from the cars. And so that's how I discovered indoor training. And then when I got onto the trainer, it was on the bike, obviously, and I realized, wow, this actually is just as good, if not better, than training outside. There's no stop signs, there's no cars, there's no anything to distract me. I can just focus on pushing big power. I can control every piece of the puzzle. I can control the rests, the recovery, the interval duration, everything. Don't have to worry about anything. And so that's why I got into it. And then I started to think, well, I wonder if it's the same for the running. And then I got onto the treadmill and I realized, wow, it's the exact same thing as well. It's just always perfect. And in fact, in the treadmill's case, it's almost like having a training partner with you too, because I used to put my treadmill backed into the wall, and you put it up to 12 miles an hour. Your incentive to run at 12 miles an hour is that if you don't, you're going to slam into that wall and perhaps die. So it was a good training partner too. So when I discovered all of this, that's when I really started to gravitate towards it, and actually became quite difficult to go outside. A lot of people ask me, you know, aren't you bored and all these things? I'm like, no, it's the opposite actually. It's just so convenient. I can control every variable, and so yeah, at times I have to force myself to go back outside to get back into outdoor things.
Well, that's kind of brought me onto that. And how do you make sure that it's, you know, because obviously you only race outdoors. Well, you've done a couple of races indoors.
Yeah,
but...
not true, actually. Yeah.
Okay, well, most of your triathlons, the important ones, are outdoors. And how do you make sure that what you're doing indoors correlates exactly enough to outdoor racing?
Yeah, that's the beauty of the power meter on the bike anyway, is power's power. So whatever, in fact, I've come to find, due to the cooling effect, whatever I'm pushing inside, usually when I go outside, I can push 15 to 20 watts more. So it's actually kind of almost like training in your big bulky runners and then putting your racing flats on, same sort of bump you get when you go outside. So, but power's power. So if you're pushing 300 watts on the trainer, well, there's no reason why you can't just go and push 300 watts or more outside. So there's really nothing to think about there from that standpoint. On the treadmill, on the other hand, I mean, you certainly can utilize things like the Stride power meter, the Garmin, the little the foot pod things. So, and I have used those sorts of things just to get a sense of, because I have 2 treadmills, to get a sense of the difference between the two. And then heart rate as well is a great metric to gauge. You know, let's say on my one treadmill, put it at 11 miles an hour, for instance, maybe my heart rate will be 125. And I'll go onto the other treadmill, my heart rate will only be 122. So obviously the 2 treadmills are not the exact same, but it doesn't really matter for the most part. I mean, now that I've been doing this a long time, a lot of my, I guess, training is for the most part by feel, actually. Now that I know sort of the zones and what they feel like, and I for the most part, try and get inside of those zones. And I know how they feel, so I just adjust the treadmill based on that. And
does that feel, I know you said that, you know, the cooling effect outdoors, it makes it feel a bit easier, but can you correlate, do you know, if you're not looking at your power meter on the bike, do you know roughly how hard you're working when you're outside? Because there's so many other factors going on, and there's wind, and there's weather, there's slopes, there's other people. Are you able to still correlate that in your mind very easily?
Yeah, for the most part, I think at constant wattage, at 300 watts, for instance, it's harder inside. So when you go outside, you're always like, oh, pleasantly surprised at how easy 300 watts feels. For instance, Ironman Arizona 2 years ago, I was doing my intervals, I believe, at 320 watts. 2 times 1 hour was my peak workout at 320 watts. And then I got into the race and I pushed 320 watts for the first 3 hours. It wasn't that challenging, whereas on the trainer, it was quite challenging to do 2 times an hour. So I had actually went into the race thinking, oh, I'll probably be somewhere between 300 and 310 for the average, and I ended up averaging 318 for the whole ride. So it's actually one of the, I believe one of the benefits of the indoor training is you do get a kind of a bump when you go outside, and I believe it's predominantly due to full body cooling. Like if you've ever put a fan full tilt, a big fan full tilt, that's like riding at like 25 kilometers an hour, you know what I mean? Like you need like some massive fans to create the cooling, full body cooling effect of 40+ kilometer an hour riding. And I actually, a guy did it for me one time in a sweat test, said that's about 40 kilometers an hour. And I had to wear sunglasses and stuff on the indoor trainer because my eyes were like dried, completely dried, I couldn't blink. But that's just the amazing part of when you're actually moving, the difference.
Well, that brings me on to your actual setup. And we've seen glimpses on your social media and things, but what does your setup look like? And do you have a fan? What do you have to hand around you? Yeah, what's it look like?
Yeah, I got the Wahoo kicker and the nice table and everything, and then I've got my iPad set up on Zwift. Then I've got multiple different fans I'll use for different types of workouts. I bring out the big painter's fan when I'm doing a real high-end VO2 max, long, continuous kind of interval. And then on the treadmill, same deal. I've got the nice Woodway treadmill. I usually, actually the Woodway, the beauty of the Woodway is that it's Bluetooth, so I just pair the treadmill to Zwift to utilize that. My other treadmill, on the other hand, inside the Energy Lab room that we created, it's got a sauna, it's insulated inside, got the heaters, infrared heat lamp, etc. That one I'll use the FootPod because it's not Bluetooth, but I still use Zwift and all that sort of thing when I'm training in there.
And is that purely set up, that treadmill, for Kona-esque conditions?
That's 100%, literally, it's called the Energy Lab for approximately miles 17 to 26 in Kona. You have to create a room to prepare properly for that, those conditions and the mental capacity required to do well, which didn't work that well, actually. The training didn't get me all the way I needed to go this year, but maybe a few more sessions in the room will help next year. We'll see.
Do you ever ride your bike without a fan on a turbo?
I never ride my bike without a fan. It's just not, I find the perceived exertion. Actually, this is a funny story. We were in Pukan 70.3, and I didn't have a fan, and it was like we were on the top floor of the hotel and there was no air conditioning. It was like literally 90 degrees in there, at least, with very high humidity. And I intended to do an interval workout, and I literally was warming up at like 250 to 280 watts. It's like my easy pace. And my heart rate was getting into 140s, which for me is like high-end threshold heart rate. Okay. And I sit there and I was like, I literally cannot do a workout. There's just no way, but I need to get some intensity in my legs for the race. So I said, I'll give you $100 if you take my wheel bag and fan me with the wheel bag for half an hour. And she took me up on the offer.
Wow.
I still haven't paid her the $100.
Brilliant. And a lot of people often ask and complain about the problems on their bikes of, the salt and affecting the, rusting and things like that. Is there anything, what do you do to your bike to sort of...
Yeah, I actually, because I used to race and train on the same bike, and I got to a race, it was Ironman Arizona actually, a couple years ago, and literally I pressed the brakes and the springs snapped on the brakes inside the brake mechanism because they were so rusted out. And so that's when I said, maybe you shouldn't race and train on the same bike. And so that's what I recommend if you're doing, like I literally was doing every single ride on the trainer. So they do make a few little things, covers and stuff. I mean, if you can't do that, then you definitely want to be putting towel, and they do make a couple different covers to put over your brake and housing and all that stuff. But I'd highly recommend maybe training on it and racing on different bikes.
Yeah. And talking of the different bikes and going back to preparing for race day, and I know we've talked about it feeling a bit easier when you actually get outside, but is there anything you do, and how much outdoor training do you do before a race to actually get that live feeling and to make sure you've got the bike handling skills? And I know you've talked about bike handling after Oceanside, was it? Maybe you need to work on that as well.
It's like anything, you drink too much water, you'll die. You do anything too much, it's probably not good for you. And so I do really believe in indoor training, but you got to ride your bike too. You got to handle your bike. And so I've definitely curbed it back a little. I've been going outside. And in fact, I think you should probably go outside, not for your workouts, but for your easy stuff, and do it find really technical places. So I have this walking paths, really windy. It's like 5 kilometers in each direction. I mean, I'm confined to where I live. We don't really have any mountains or anything, you know what I mean? If I had some mountains, I'd certainly be going up into the mountains and coming back down. But you make do with what you have, so that's how I'm going about it.
Are we going to see you racing Xterra anytime soon?
Absolutely not. No, I mean, I'm looking to live to see the next day, so, yeah.
When you trained before Zwift came along, how did you mentally sort of stop yourself getting bored? How did you keep focused?
I didn't. I just got really bored, and eventually I came to the conclusion that, it's all in the mind. I had a lot of time to do some introspection, and I came to a lot of the realizations about my current race, how I go about racing in those moments when I would just stare at the wall and just be with the intensity and be with the movement. And I mean, that's also quite enjoyable too. Sometimes I just ride the trainer without any stimulation because sometimes you need that. You need just a moving meditation. And Yeah, I mean, once again, too much of anything's not good. It's good to be a well-rounded athlete. So doing everything you can see and think of, it's all good for you. Doing one is not going to be good for you. Do it all.
And so you do your own mental training, and you let your mind go sometimes when you're always bringing your mind back.
Yeah. Once again, too much of anything is not good. So sometimes you allow your mind to wander, and other times, especially times when you have anxiety and those sorts of things, it's better to come back to center and allow those anxieties to fade away, and then you put those anxiety into perspective, and then you probably come back to, when you're done the exercise, to whatever the issue is, you have a much better perspective because you're not attached to the anxiety. So it's all good. It's all, and you definitely should say, sometimes I'm going to stay totally focused in on this workout, and other times you can allow yourself to check out a little bit. It's all good for you, and ways to become a better athlete and a better person, I believe.
And I mean, you've mentioned Zwift a few times, and now you're moving more into triathlon as well with the Zwift Academy. What are your thoughts on that, and why? Triathlon? Do you think triathlon's moving more into more indoor training, and is that going to help the sport, or how do you see that?
Time is such an issue when you're doing 3 sports. So the beauty of the indoor training is there's not like the bike's already set up, ready to go. You just flick the fan on, pair the thing onto Zwift or whatever, and you're ready to go. There's no airing the tires up, getting to the proper roads, driving, whatever, all this stuff. So from a convenience factor, it's fantastic, which is the name of the game in triathlon. And then Zwift as well, for me anyway. I mean, I like riding on Zwift a lot more than staring at the wall. So I'm always a big believer in the best time, or you get really good at biking when you're riding your bike. So whatever motivates you to ride your bike, you should do that. And being on Zwift, being in races, being with people motivates me to get onto the bike. So you should do that. So I think it's really good, and I think I certainly have seen a lot more people going towards it. And then I think a lot of people are also coming to the conclusion that the training quality for most people is better indoors on these virtual roads with no cars and no distractions, and actually stimulus that increases your intensity, increases your engagement to your riding. It's better on there than it is out in their whatever roads with all these cars and everything. So yeah, I think we'll just continue on down that pathway. Yeah. And then imagine the day when we get the VR goggles and everything, which I'm sure is not that far down the road, and you literally will look over to the left in the race and dude's right next to you. I mean, that's coming.
Do you think there's a certain personality type that can get more out of indoor training than others? Do you think you need to have a certain mindset to be able to train indoors?
Well, I think I believe this is 90% mental, 10% physical for the most part, this whole endeavor. Yeah. And so if you label yourself as, oh, I'm a person who can't ride indoors, well, there's something to improve upon. And same for myself, who was a person who's good at riding indoors. Well, I need to get outside sometimes too, right? This is all becoming well-rounded. There should be no such thing as this is not ideal for me, right? That's just a mental block that you've created for yourself. Yeah. And so anytime you ever find one, that's a great gift, because it's an area to improve upon. And so for me, the big one right now is technical things. Yeah. And so I'm getting rid of that. I'm going to become a good technical rider, so that there are no courses that I can't do. I'll do all the courses. I don't avoid courses. Right. And that's only going to help when you do go to your courses that are built for you. You're just going to become even more confident, more proficient. So no, there is no, well, yeah, there is, but they created that themselves.
Yeah. And do you have, could you give us an example of one of your favorite sessions to do on the indoor trainer?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I use the trainer in so many different ways as I've gotten to know it. Some sessions I just want to do a straight, I'll put it into erg mode, and I'll just do straight, let's say 10 times 8 minutes. That's like a nice 70.3 session, 10 times 8 minutes with 3 minutes recovery, and I'll put it right to exact wattage that I want, I'll just hold it dead steady. That's a perfect session for a race like Challenge San Morin. It's dead flat, no hills, very little corners. You just got to be able to stay in the time trial position and hold good power. So for that workout, I put the wattage at like 350 to 360 watts, and that's what you're doing for the next 80 minutes. Basically, is holding it dead steady and trying to hold good technique. On the other hand, you can put the trainer on too for different style of riding and different types of courses. You can put the trainer on to the controllable trainer mode and ride around in Zwift or whatever. And the beauty is you can take turns and stuff throughout the environment to simulate the types of terrains that you're going to have. There's going to be some really steep climbs, and then I'll build that into like a VO2 max workout. So maybe I'll do, there's one pathway on Zwift that'll take me about 20 minutes and has a steep climb in there, and I'll do a VO2 max interval up the climb, very hard out of the saddle, 450 watts, and then I'll take a little bit of recovery, and then I'll do the next basically 15 minutes down in time trial position at more 70.3 race pace, and then I'll repeat that 3 times through. And for me, once again, that kind of simulates 2 things. It can simulate a more technical bike course, a more, I guess, hilly bike course like St. George, where you will have those big punches for 3 minutes or so, and then more steady 70.3. But also, even in a race like this, where you're catching groups of guys and stuff, you need to be able to put forth that 450 watt 3-minute surge and go right back down into 70.3, nice steady effort. So you can use the terrain in the virtual world to simulate all that stuff, which once again, I don't have hills where I live. It would be impossible to create that workout where I live. Yeah. So it's another one of the beauties. So that's a couple of the ways that I use it.
And do you have a least favorite session, which I imagine for you is probably ends up being your favorite session because you turn it around.
Yeah, totally.
But what is your least favorite session?
My least favorite session is the high-end 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute style intervals. And I trained with a guy back in college he was a great miler and 800-meter runner, and I was more of the endurance guy. So we'd do 2 workouts together a week, and he would write one, I'd write the other. So his would always be 800 repeats, 400 repeats. I would just absolutely dread them. And then he'd come to my session, and we'd do like 10K threshold run. Yeah. And I mean, that's a good strategy, actually, is to train with a guy who has the exact opposite strengths as you, and you both hate each other, but you both love each other as well.
Do you, how close to your outside position is it with your head? Because, you know, if you do a lot of time on turbo, it's easy to sort of find a more comfortable position indoors than it is outdoors because you don't have to see where you're going. And how do you make sure that you train those muscles as well?
It's a really interesting question. I've just discovered it actually this year, that there is a significant difference between indoor position and outdoor position that you would choose because of the force of moving. You have lift forces when you're riding outside, significant lift forces, and so the pressure on your groin and everything is significantly different outside than inside. So you will choose, self-select a much different position inside than outside. And it's a question I don't really have the answer to. Where I'm headed is I think I'll develop 2 seat posts, two seats completely set up. My indoor post with the seat set up a particular way on my outdoor, and a very similar idea to, you know, doing different lifts for different on the same muscle group but different lifts. Right, hammer curl, this type of curl, blah, blah, blah. You recruit the muscles slightly differently. So I'll have my indoor position, which will be just slightly different. I find like 5 millimeters higher seat post, maybe the seat a little bit further back when I go outside, probably due to lift forces. And so I'll train on that position on the indoor. And then when I go outside, I'll put the different seat post in and train on that outside. And this is all just theories right now, but that's something I just started to realize when I really did. I set mirrors up all around the bike so I could start to analyze my position. And I mean, the process that I've been going through is it starts with, am I comfortable? And the next piece is, am I pushing good power? And the next piece is, how do I look? Okay. And it's just this I guess, process of doing that over and over again. Yeah. and I still haven't come to any conclusions. I'm definitely getting better, but it's still big work in progress. So it's a whole frontier to explore moving forward.
And what would you recommend to to age groups and to our viewers with their position that you've learned from that? What would you say to someone who's getting onto the turbo for maybe the first time? How do they work out and get their setup as close to outdoors as in?
I mean, the number one thing once again is you're going to get the best at riding a bike while riding a bike. So you should probably set your position up in the beginning anyway, as comfortable as you can get it, so that you want to ride your bike, and then you can slowly, as you do, adapt to that very comfortable position. Maybe you can take a couple spacers out on the front end. If you need to, maybe you can lift the seat, get into a little more aggressive, and just slowly, this idea that like everything happens overnight, just get rid of that. Like it's like, you know, you're going to spend years developing this if you're doing it properly, and you'll get into progressively more aggressive position and be able to handle it, and yeah, I think that's the proper way, not just like throw yourself into this ridiculous position. And then on the topic of neck and that sort of thing, yeah, definitely you want to get a particular stand or something for your iPad to put it very similar to where you will be looking on the road. That's very important actually for when you're time trialing. If you got it, because I used to do that exact thing. I would set the thing up so I'd be in this like perfect position, that I could never do outside because I'll crash into something. So if you're really concerned, especially on your race pace kind of intervals, you definitely want to have that iPad set up right where you're going to be looking outside to get the proper adaptation.
Awesome. Well, Lionel, thank you so much for that. Some really interesting insights, and I'm sure a lot of points that people can take away. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
And if you want to catch all of our videos from GTN, just hit the globe to subscribe. And if you want some tips on how to ride a hilly triathlon course, Mark's made a video on that just here.
And if you want to learn to pedal like a pro, which I should probably watch this video, you should